Have you ever felt like you're saving everyone except yourself? Evelyn Carter's hands had saved hundreds of lives, but they couldn't save her own. At 45, she moved through Seattle Memorial Hospital like a ghost in scrubs. Efficient, invisible, essential. 23 years of night shifts had carved permanent shadows under her eyes. Her back ached from lifting patients. Her heart ached from something deeper. I take care of everyone, and nobody takes care of me. The thought arrived every morning at 5:47 a.m., precisely when her alarm shattered the darkness. It followed her through the empty apartment where her son's old bedroom remained untouched, 3 years after he'd moved across the country without looking back. It echoed in the silence, where her ex-husband's voice used to be. Tonight, like every night, she stood in the hospital break room at 2 a.m., eating cold pizza over the sink. No time to sit. Never time to sit. Her reflection in the darkened window looked like a stranger, someone who'd donated her entire life to other people's emergencies and had nothing left for her own slow-motion catastrophe. The coffee tasted like ashes. The fluorescent lights hummed their eternal judgment, and Evelyn felt the truth crystallize in her chest, like ice. She'd become a machine that kept other hearts beating while her own had flatlined years ago. The next morning, her supervisor delivered the news with bureaucratic efficiency. "We're transferring you to palliative care. Budget cuts. You start Monday." Evelyn heard it as what it was: demotion, punishment, exile. From saving lives to watching them end. She didn't argue. She never argued anymore. Arguing required caring, and caring required energy she'd stopped producing. The palliative care wing existed in a different reality. Softer lighting, slower footsteps, the particular silence of people saying goodbye. Evelyn hated it immediately, not because of death. She'd seen plenty of death. But because here, there was time. Time to notice. Time to feel. Time for patients to see her instead of just what she could do for them. Room 408 contained her first assignment. Arthur Hale, 82. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. DNR. No family listed. She pushed open the door expecting the usual. Tubes, monitors, the medicalized choreography of dying. Instead, she found a bald man with startling blue eyes sitting upright, reading a battered copy of Whitman's Leaves of Grass. "Ah," he said, looking up with a smile that seemed impossible given his diagnosis. "My first visitor who isn't here to convince me I'm tragic." Evelyn's professional mask slipped into place. "Mr. Hale, I'm Evelyn, your night nurse. How's your pain level?" "Depends." He closed the book carefully. "Physical, manageable, existential, non-existent," which is apparently what disturbs people most. She checked his vitals, efficient and distant. "You're angry," he observed. "I'm working." "Those aren't mutually exclusive, but I appreciate the distinction." He studied her with unnerving attention. "How long have you been this tired?" The question landed like a punch. "I don't?" Evelyn's hands froze mid-task. "That's not appropriate." "Dying grants certain privileges," Arthur said gently, "including honesty. You look like someone who's been running on empty for so long. You've forgotten what full feels like." Evelyn finished her checks in silence and left without responding. But Arthur's words followed her down the hallway, through the rest of her shift, all the way home to her empty apartment where they waited in every corner. She returned to room 408 the following night, determined to maintain professional distance. Arthur was waiting with that same peaceful smile. "I have a proposition," he announced before she could speak. "I'm not playing games, Mr. Hale." "Good. This isn't a game. It's a trade." He leaned forward, eyes bright with life that shouldn't exist in a dying body. I'll make your job easy. No complaints, full cooperation, maybe even some entertaining conversation. In return, you tell me one thing every shift. What thing? One thing you did that day for yourself, not for this hospital, not for a patient, not even for someone you love. Just for you. Evelyn's laugh was sharp and bitter. That should be a short conversation. Exactly. Arthur's expression softened. Evelyn, and yes, I'm going to call you that because Nurse Carter sounds like someone who doesn't exist outside these walls. Do you know what I learned at sea? The most dangerous thing isn't the storm. It's the captain who forgets to eat, to sleep, to drop anchor. Eventually, she just disappears. Ship keeps sailing. Captain's gone. I'm fine. You're a magnificent liar. He picked up his book. But here's what I know about excellent nurses. They're experts at everyone's pain except their own. So here's my challenge. Prove me wrong. Come back tomorrow and tell me one selfish, self-caring thing you did in the last 24 hours. Evelyn wanted to refuse, should have refused. But something in Arthur's eyes, not pity, not manipulation, just pure witnessing, made her whisper, "Fine, one thing." "Excellent." Arthur grinned. "I'll still be here, not going anywhere dramatic just yet." Night 2. Evelyn entered room 408 with defeat already prepared. "I tried," she said immediately. "There was nothing. Work, sleep, work." Arthur nodded, unsurprised. "How did you feel when you realized that?" The question caught her off guard. She expected judgment. Instead, she got curiosity. Sad, she admitted, and scared, because I can't remember the last time I did something just for me. Not the last month, maybe not the last year. Now we're getting somewhere. Arthur adjusted his pillow. Here's the thing about big changes. They terrify us, so we don't make them. But tiny changes? Almost invisible? Those we can manage. Tonight, before you leave, I want you to do one microscopic act of self-care. 30 seconds, that's all. Like what? Surprise me. And more importantly, surprise yourself. At 6:47 a.m., as the night shift ended and the sky began its slow burn toward dawn, Evelyn did something she hadn't done in 3 years. She walked to her car, but didn't get in. Instead, she stood in the parking lot, just stood there, and tilted her face toward the emerging sun. Cold Seattle air kissed her cheeks. Seagulls cried overhead. The world breathed its morning breath. 30 seconds. Just breathing. Just being. When she finally drove home, something felt different. Not fixed, not healed. Just less absent. Night 3. I stood outside, Evelyn told Arthur. For 30 seconds. That's it. Arthur's smile could have powered the hospital. That's everything. Do you know what you just did? You gave yourself permission to exist outside of function. That's not small, Evelyn. That's revolutionary. It was 30 seconds. How did it feel? She paused, searching for honesty. Like I'd stolen something. Perfect. Arthur laughed, then winced, pain breaking through. Evelyn moved to adjust his medication, but he waved her off. Not yet. Listen, that feeling of theft? That's your inner prison guard. She's been keeping you locked up so long, she thinks freedom is a crime. But here's the secret. She's not real. She's just an old story you've been telling yourself. And stories? They can be rewritten. How? One sentence at a time. One choice at a time. One 30-second rebellion at a time. He looked at her with surprising intensity. Tomorrow, do something even smaller. So small you can't possibly fail. What began as Arthur's challenge became Evelyn's lifeline. Each night, she'd returned to room 408 with her tiny victories. Night 4. I sat down to drink my coffee. Didn't stand at the sink. Night 7. I listened to an entire song in my car before going inside. Night 10. I said no to covering someone's shift. Night 14. I texted my son, "Just thinking of you." He responded. Night 19. I wore lipstick. First time in, I can't remember. Arthur celebrated each one like she'd climbed Everest. And slowly, so slowly she almost didn't notice, Evelyn began to feel something she'd thought was permanently lost. Permission to take up space in her own life. The hospital hadn't changed. The workload remained crushing. Her body still ached. But she was changing. Microscopic shifts in how she moved through the world. Tiny allowances of self-compassion. Small ceremonies of self-worth. "You're doing the hardest work there is," Arthur told her one night, his voice weaker than before. "You're unlearning the belief that your value depends on your service. You're remembering that you're not a tool for other people's survival. You're a human being with a life that matters." "I'm just standing in parking lots and wearing lipstick." "No." Arthur's eyes burned with feverish clarity. "You're building a foundation, brick by brick. And one day soon, you'll realize you've built a whole new house. One where you're allowed to live inside it." Night 23. Arthur looked different, grayer, smaller. The cancer was winning, but when Evelyn entered, he still smiled. "Today," Evelyn said, sitting down for the first time in his room, "I took a bath with candles. I can't remember the last time I did that." "How long?" 20 minutes. "And?" "I cried." Her voice cracked. "The whole time. I don't even know why." Arthur reached for her hand, his grip weak but warm. "That wasn't sadness, Evelyn. That was grief. You've been mourning yourself without knowing it. The woman who got lost in all the giving. She needed to be seen. And today, for 20 minutes, you finally saw her." Evelyn let the tears come. Arthur held her hand and said nothing. Finally, she whispered, "What if I'm too late? What if I've wasted too much time? Look at me." Arthur's voice was fierce despite his frailty. "You're here now. That's what matters. Not the years you lost. The moment you chose to stop losing. Every sunrise is a blank page. Every breath is a new sentence. You haven't missed your life, Evelyn. You're just starting to write it." The nights blurred together in that strange space between dying and living. Arthur grew weaker, but somehow more present. Their conversations deepened into territory Evelyn had never explored with anyone. "Why aren't you afraid?" she asked one night. "Of dying?" Arthur considered this. "I made my peace with impermanence a long time ago. Watch the ocean teach me. Waves come, waves go. The water remains. I'm just a wave, Evelyn. Been a pretty good wave, all things considered. No regrets? None that matter." He paused. "Except one. I spent too many years believing I had to earn my place on Earth. Striving, proving, achieving. Wasn't until I got sick that I realized I belonged here all along. Didn't have to earn it. Neither do you." Those words settled into Evelyn's bones like warmth. Another night, as she helped him adjust his position, Arthur said, "You know what the greatest gift you can give the world is?" "What?" "A woman who's taken care of herself. A woman who's not running on fumes. A woman who knows her worth doesn't come from her usefulness." He looked at her intensely. "The world doesn't need more martyrs, Evelyn. It needs more women who remember they're whole." She was learning. Not just from his words, but from watching him. The way he savored small joys, expressed gratitude for microscopic kindnesses, existed fully in each remaining moment. He was teaching her not through instruction, but through being. One night, she brought him tea and asked, "Arthur, what am I supposed to do with all this? When you're gone, you're going to live it," he said simply. "Every single day. You're going to wake up and choose yourself alongside everyone else, not instead of, alongside. That's the revolution, Evelyn. Not abandoning service, but including yourself in the circle of your own care." "I'm scared I'll forget." "Then remember this, nothing changes until you do. But here's the miracle. When you change, even 1 degree, the entire trajectory of your life shifts. You're not the same woman who walked into this room weeks ago, and 6 months from now, you'll barely recognize who you are today. Trust the unfolding. Night 34. Evelyn arrived at 11 p.m. for her shift with a strange story to share. "You won't believe what I did today," she told Arthur, settling into the chair beside his bed. But Arthur didn't respond. His breathing had changed. Shallow, labored. The monitors showed what she already knew. He was declining rapidly. "Arthur?" Her voice cracked. His eyes opened slowly. That brilliant blue was dimming. "Evelyn," he whispered, "tell me. I joined a yoga class. First one is tomorrow." She held his hand. "Stupid timing, right? I finally get brave enough and—" "Perfect. Timing." Each word cost him. "Proud of you. Don't talk. Save your energy." "For what?" A ghost of his smile. "Was never about me living. Was about you living." "Arthur, please, listen." His grip tightened slightly. "You saved yourself. I just held up mirror. The woman you're becoming, she was always there, just buried. Promise me, keep digging her out." "I promise." "Walk with faith, Evelyn. Every step matters. Even tiny ones, especially tiny ones." They sat in silence. Evelyn held his hand as his breathing slowed, steadied into something almost peaceful. At 4:47 a.m., she stepped out to check on another patient. At 5:03 a.m., the monitor in room 408 flatlined. Evelyn stood frozen in the hallway, 17 feet from his door. Too late. "You weren't there. You failed him." The old voice tried to rise, the one that turned every loss into her personal failure. But then, something new spoke. "He didn't need you to watch him die. He needed you to watch yourself live." She entered room 408 one final time. Arthur looked at peace, more than peace. He looked complete. On the bedside table, under his copy of Whitman, she found a note in his shaky handwriting. "Nurse Carter is relearning to live. She saved someone this month. Herself. That's not a small thing. That's everything. Walk with faith. A.H." Evelyn held the note and cried. Not the gray tears of exhaustion she'd carried for years, but something clearer. Grief. Yes, but also gratitude. And something that felt almost like joy. Arthur was right. Nothing had changed until she did. But when she changed, even microscopically, everything shifted. 3 months later, the hospital chapel was small and sparsely attended. Arthur's funeral drew only 7 people. The required hospital chaplain, 2 nurses from palliative care, a social worker, and Evelyn. No family, no old friends, just the people who'd witnessed his ending. As they lowered his simple urn into the columbarium, Evelyn thought about waves and oceans, about belonging without earning, about tiny revolutions that rewrite destinies. She wore lipstick. She'd taken a bath that morning. She'd told her supervisor no to an extra shift so she could be here. Small things. Arthur's kind of things. 4 months later, Evelyn stood in front of the hospital administration office, heart pounding. She'd asked for this meeting. Actually asked, not been summoned, not been reassigned. Asked. "I want to propose something," she told the director of nursing. "A support group for staff, specifically for burnout, compassion fatigue, and those of us who've forgotten we're human beings instead of just healthcare providers." The director looked skeptical. "We have EAP services. I'm not talking about therapy," Evelyn said, surprised by the strength in her own voice. "I'm talking about community, about permission, about teaching nurses and doctors and aides that taking care of ourselves isn't weakness. It's the foundation of everything else we do." "And you'd run this?" "Yes." No hesitation. "I would." The director studied her. "You're different lately, Carter. Can't quite put my finger on it." "I'm here," Evelyn thought. "I'm finally here." "I'll pilot it," the director finally said. 3 months. See how it goes." 6 months later, the support group met every Thursday at 7 a.m. in the small conference room on the 3rd floor. 15 staff members, nurses, residents, even a surgeon, sat in a circle sharing their microscopic victories. I took my full lunch break for the first time in 6 months. I told my kid I loved her before I crashed after a double shift. I deleted the work email app from my phone. Small things, revolutionary things. Evelyn facilitated, but she wasn't the expert. She was just further along the path. "Here's what I learned," she told the group. "Nothing changes until you do. And I spent 20 years waiting for the hospital to change, my family to change, my circumstances to change. But the shift had to start here." She touched her chest. "One tiny choice at a time. That's not selfish. That's survival. And eventually, if you keep choosing yourself alongside everyone else, it becomes something more. It becomes a life." A young resident raised her hand. "How do you know when you've changed enough?" Evelyn smiled. Arthur's smile, she realized. "You don't. Because you never stop changing. You just get better at being gentle with yourself through the process. You stop waiting for permission, and you start giving it to yourself. 30 seconds at a time." 1 year later, Evelyn stood in the hospital parking lot at 6:47 a.m., exactly where this journey had started. Her son was visiting this weekend. They'd reconciled slowly, awkwardly, but genuinely. Her apartment had plants now, live ones. She'd started painting again, badly, wonderfully, without caring about the result. The support group had grown to 40 members. The hospital was considering making it permanent. She still got tired, still had hard days, still worked in a broken healthcare system. But she wasn't broken anymore. Or maybe she was. But she'd learned that broken things could still hold light. That cracks were where the growth happened. That her worth wasn't measured by her usefulness, but by her existence. The sun rose over Seattle, painting the sky in shades of possibility. Evelyn tilted her face toward the warmth, 30 seconds becoming a lifetime, and whispered the words Arthur had taught her. "Walk with faith. Every step matters. Even the tiny ones. Especially the tiny ones." And then, because she'd earned it, because she'd learned it, because she'd survived her own disappearance and fought her way back, she walked, not running toward the next emergency, not fleeing from the last failure, just walking. One woman, whole, here, finally here. This story reminds us that nothing changes until we do. But here's the beautiful part. Change doesn't require grand gestures. It starts with 30 seconds of choosing yourself. One breath, one boundary, one moment of permission. So here's my question for you. What microscopic act of self-care could you do today? Not tomorrow. Today. If this story touched something deep inside you, type the word faith in the comments. Let me know you made it to the end. Share what city you're watching from. Your presence here matters. Subscribe and turn on notifications because every week I share stories that might just rewrite how you see yourself and your struggles. And remember, your transformation doesn't require permission from anyone. It just requires one tiny, brave choice. Starting now.